Okay, we're moving on to arousal. Okay, so before we crack on, we need to know what the definition is. Okay, so if you read up at the top, when defining arousal, it's helpful to describe the relationship between arousal and motivation. Okay, the way you want to look at it is that motivation has two elements. Okay, number one is the intensity of behaviour or arousal, okay, which we're going to look at in a second. And then motivation also has the direction of behaviour, the response we make because of our level of arousal. So the next few minutes I'm going to talk to you about arousal. So the definition is here. Okay, it's the level of excitement that a person feels, or the physiological and the psychological readiness a person feels, e.g. before, during and after a sports event. Now, you might hear me talking a little bit about these two terminologies here. Okay, so the physiological talks mainly about somatic arousal. Okay, now somatic arousal is a really key word that you need to understand. It relates to the changing physiological state of the body. For example, your heart rate will increase before competition, okay, or your blood pressure will increase. We also need to know about the cognitive arousal, okay, which is called the cognitive arousal. Okay, relates to changing the psychological state of the body. So you might feel more anxiety or worry before a big event. Now these two make up arousal, so make sure you understand somatic and that you understand cognitive, okay, because that's what we'll talk about as we go through it all. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is the drive theory. Now, what you'll need to do is be able to understand the graph. Okay, so I'll talk you through the graph first. Okay, so down the side, okay, and it's the same for all of them. Okay, we've got the performance of the dominant response, so it might be the skill or the sport or the motor program, whatever it might be. Okay, this is how successful. So down here is a low performance, up here is the high. Along the x-axis, we've got arousal. Okay, we have low to high. Now, the drive theory is shown, okay, that the more aroused we get, okay, so you can see arousal goes up, arousal goes along here, okay, the performance increases. Okay, so it's very simple, it's a linear relationship, it's a positive correlation between arousal and the performance of the dominant response. Okay, the dominant response is the learned behaviour, okay, like I spoke to about over here, could be the motor skill. Okay, so this is just suggesting the more aroused you get, okay, that your performance is going to increase. Now, what we'll need to know is how to critique this theory, okay, because you'll need to evaluate this as part of your exam. So novices are affected negatively and perform badly when their arousal is too high. Okay, so this isn't great for this young lady down here. Okay, so the drive theory sort of goes against what we should be doing to beginners or people at the cognitive stage of learning. So the dominant response of a novice at the cognitive stage is likely to be incorrect. Low levels of arousal best suit the learner at the cognitive stage and the associative stage of learning. High arousal inhibits the performance of the perceptual and fine motor skills. For example, the spin bowling in cricket, or it might be just dribbling in here. Okay, so it's really important that we try and keep people in the cognitive stage of learning at a low state of arousal, which goes against this theory. Okay, however, the people at the autonomous stage of learning, so this basketball player, they perform better, okay, under high arousal state. They enjoy to be challenged, and sort of dynamic skills help, such as sprinting and explosive strength. Okay, it really does help if they're highly aroused. Okay, so I just need you to maybe just pause for a second and have a look through that. And finally, the drive theory, if you look down here at the bottom, only considers the effect of somatic arousal, okay, on performance, not the influence of cognitive. So you must understand that this is mainly based on the somatic arousal, such as heart rate and blood pressure. Okay, we'll move on to the inverted U hypothesis. Now again, the y-axis stays the same and the x-axis stays the same. So this one just suggests that arousal, as our arousal increases, so does performance. Okay, and we need to try and get our performers to the optimum point. The performance and the capacity to learn is best at this point, okay, and perform any skill. Learning is the best at this point here. If the arousal continues to go high, what you see is we'll see a deterioration and a downward spiral line with performance. So this suggests that if you get too highly aroused, your performance will decrease and it will go down slowly. So we have a look at the three things down here. The effect of under arousal is that the performance will be below potential due to attentional broadening. The performer does not focus on relevant cues and does not filter out irrelevant information, causing overload of information. Okay, so they're not really up for it, if you want to put it in sort of a crude in a way. Optimum arousal causes the attentional field to adjust to the ideal width. This has a positive effect on selective attention and cue utilization, which is the ability to focus and act upon appropriate cues. This maximizes capacity to make fast and accurate decisions. Okay, this is where we want to be. Okay, then we look at going over the edge. The effect of over-arousal is that performance will decline due to the hypervigilance and perceptual or attentional narrowing. The performer is over-focused and filters out relevant cues, causing panic. This leads to poor decision making. Now, if we go down here to the brown boxes, the task type, personality and skill level determine the position of the optimum point for each individual. So this might be, okay, for player X, okay, but then if we went over here, if that was an individual, okay, well, it would be very different for each person. That's why sports psychology is so interesting. It's trying to work out who would benefit from maybe this model, okay, where arousal's in the middle, okay, so it could change. I know for a fact when I'm playing rugby, okay, I perform better. My optimum point would be a little bit further along, which would change the whole shape of the graph. There's also people in my team that are their curve will be slightly earlier, okay, because they can perform best under low arousal. So that's a really important thing to take note of, is that the optimum point isn't the same for everybody, okay? The task, the personality and the skill level will change the optimum point. Complex or fine skills, introverts and novices have low optimum arousal levels, okay, what's just maybe suggested, and your gross or simple skills, extroverts and autonomous performers have high level of optimal arousal, okay? Really key points down here, okay? This is not like that for everybody, okay? You've got to understand how it changes. And again, the inverted U, they only considers the effect of somatic arousal, okay, on performance, and not, just zoom this in a bit, not the influence of cognitive, okay, so again, it's mainly just talking about somatic. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Okay, we'll move on to the final one, which is called the catastrophe theory. Okay, quite a difficult word to say, so it might be worth saying it 10 times out loud to try and get the hang of that. Okay, catastrophe, disaster. Okay, things are going to go completely wrong. Now, this is the final one. It's the first time we see that it actually affects somatic and cognitive. Okay, so making sure we understand that somatic is to do with the physical arousal, so your heart rate, your blood pressure, and your cognitive, it's what's going on in your head, your anxiety and your worry. So if somatic arousal increases, so does performance up to an optimal point, but only if cognitive anxiety is kept low. So it's okay for your heart rate to go high and your blood pressure to go high, as long as you're keeping your cognitive anxiety low, okay? You're not worrying too much. It's about dealing with that feeling. If high cognitive anxiety combines with high somatic arousal, the performer goes beyond the optimal point. Again, very similar to the inverted U. The performer loses concentration and there's a sharp decline in performance, e.g. dropping a straightforward catch in cricket. For example, this is Steve Smith, the Australian captain. I thought I'd pick on him because he's had such a good Ashes in 2018 that I'll just show him maybe dropping a catch. So if we follow this through, okay, Steve Smith, okay, his arousal levels keep going up and up and up to the optimum point, just like they do with the inverted U hypothesis, apart from this time it doesn't slowly decline because the drop catch is very quick, straight down to here. Now what you need to understand is what these dotted lines mean. So this is where maybe a coach or your peers come in. So if arousal is controlled and lowered after the performer goes over the edge, okay, so when it's lowered, you can see arousal's here and it's been lowered, it's coming back along here. the performance can improve and the upward curve of arousal can be rejoined. They come back in here and they're absolutely fine and they can start again. However, if they have the catastrophe, he drops the catch and he stays highly aroused, or he gets more aroused, okay, and somatic and cognitive arousal stays really high, then his performance will decline even further. So if the ball did come to him again, maybe one along the floor, there's a potential he may miss it. So you would need to know what strategies we could use here as a coach or a captain or a teammate. If we do have a drop catch, for example, Steve Smith, what we're going to do? We're going to have a quiet word, calm him down, maybe move him fielding positions to maybe calm his nerves, get his cognitive anxiety and arousal down, okay, and that'll hopefully feed him back round. If we continue to make him worry about things, very likely that his performance will continue to be low, as you can see if you look on the y-axis. Okay, thank you. Okay, very straightforward test for you. I've had an attempt to draw the 3 axes for the 3 types of arousal, okay, 1, 2 and 3. What I'd like to do is have a go at drawing them on a piece of paper and then go back, sort of rewinding my clip and see if you've got it all right. Now I want it absolutely perfect, okay? You've got to get all the labels in the right place, all the lines in the right place. See how you get on.